What's going on, Internet? Iron Jordan here. So, continuing with our week of looking at the new decks and some of the old decks that are updated, coming into OP-02, which is pre-release at the end of this week. If you're watching this video on the day that it's going to be uploaded, which is going to be probably sometime Sunday afternoon, then we have just 5.5 days until everybody's going to be at their respective pre-releases, opening sets of Paramount War and looking for new cards for their new decks. Now, if you know me and if you've been following this channel at all through our journey with the One Piece card game, you know that I am a blue player at heart. I was a blue player in Magic. I really love tempo. I love maintaining tempo. I love being able to mess with my opponent's strategy and bounce cards and tuck cards and counter spells and all this other stuff. I am a big blue fan when it comes to stuff like that. I just like playing tempo. And so I have been playing a lot of Dofi. Dofi is my most played deck in OP-01. Between test games, casual games, and tournament games, I probably have something like 200 games, and that's not even an exaggeration, on Dofi. It's just my favorite deck. Blue is just my favorite color. It just facilitates that playstyle. And blue shifts a lot in set 2. It gets a little bit better. Blue in set 1 was not exactly the best color. It was pretty good. Every color was playable in set 1, but blue specifically struggled really hard into green. Now, with set 2, it still kind of struggles into green, but not as much as it did previous. This is going to kick off a string of decks that you're going to have to do if you are a blue player, where you just build the new blue strategy every new set, and it's because it's slightly better than the one that you were playing the set before. So obviously you're going from Dofi to Ivankov, and then in set 3 you'll go from Ivankov to Nami most likely, and that'll be the evolution of blue because it just gets slightly better every single time. So hopefully by the time we hit set 3 or set 4, we will have a very strong meta strategy for our favorite color. But today we are here to talk about Ivankov. Ivankov's a pretty good deck. It's probably one of the top 5 or 6 decks in set 2. It's definitely brings Blue's power level up a lot, and a lot of that has to do with some of the very powerful Impel Down cards that we're going to talk about right now. So first of all, if you're unfamiliar with what Ivankov does, strictly, he just says, if it's the end of your turn, you have 0 cards in hand, draw 2 cards. The effect is really not that good. It's not terrible. When you get it, it's very powerful. Pot of Greed is a very strong effect, especially when you don't have to pay anything for it. But it's a very strong effect when it goes off, but also it usually means that you are not in a very good position when it goes off, so take that for what you will. You have some core concepts of this deck. I built my first version of this deck with turboing through the deck in mind. So I have 4 Perona, 4 Buggy, 4 Doflamingo, and then something that is probably a little weird for most people, which is 4 New Kamaland. The reason why I'm running 4 New Kamaland is because I really, really, really want to get to Ivankov and Monkey D. Luffy at the top end of my deck, so that I can end the game as fast as possible before my opponent is able to create big threats. Or be able to have enough bodies on board that my tempo is so great that even when they play those big threats, like a 10-drop Kaido or something, that it doesn't matter and the game is essentially already over anyway, and I can just beat them. So that is why we are playing for New Kamaland. Now, this deck does have a little bit of a problem that the other blue deck did not have, that Dofi did not have. Dofi was not afraid of the 10-drop Kaido. This is usually because Dofi kept a pretty big hand size thanks to his ability and thanks to the cards that he played that kept refilling your hand or kept your hand size big or at parity or whatever. This deck can lose to a 10-drop board wipe. It absolutely can. You don't have a massive hand. Your guys are not big enough to, pressure very early. And you do have some setup with this deck that you have to get to. So this is a slightly less good matchup against purple, whereas Dofi was actually kind of favored into purple. This deck is probably a little more 50-50. So take that for what you will. But it's going to be pretty good into black. It's going to be a lot better into red, especially Whitebeard. This deck was kind of envisioned with Whitebeard in mind, whenever it was first being... I actually think it was kind of envisioned with Zoro in mind when it was being created in Asia. But anywho, the deck has a much better matchup spread across the board, so that's why. So we have those 4 cards that are just meant to turbo through our decks. The next part of our engine is the 2K counters. We're playing 12 2K counters. We're playing 4 Alvida, 4 Mihawk, and 4 Bentham. Mr. 2 Bonclay, the Chad, absolutely love this guy. He's one of the best characters in One Piece. We absolutely stand and respect and love Mr. 2 Bonclay. Bonchan, we love him. He is searchable off of Buggy, and also he is playable off of the 7-drop Ivankov. So that's very good. Buggy looks for your ample down cards aside from Buggy, obviously. Nukama Land obviously draws 1, discards 1. Perona looks at top 5. Doflamingo lists top 5. You know what those cards do. The 2-cost counters, we're just playing the best ones, obviously, until we get to set 3, and then we can play Kaya. And Kaya is very good. She's probably the new best 2K counter. She'll probably replace Alvida. Next, we have our Impel Down Suite. Obviously, we already talked about Mr. 2 already, but you have the Vanilla Crocodile, which can be played off the Ivankov, or it can just be played as a 5-drop 7K. That's not the end of the world. The Monkey D. Luffy, obviously, is the huge boss monster that you want to be playing. On play, you can trash 2 cards from your hand, and then you can bounce a 4-cost or less, and then he gains double attack. And this is on play and on attack, so he can bounce 2 cards in a turn cycle, which is pretty good. And then you have 2 blockers, one being Inazuma, which buffs itself if you have 1 or fewer card in hand, and then Mr. 3, which is a blocker that can discard a card from your hand to set him as active at the end of the turn, which is very, very good. If you end up going into the turn with 1 card in hand, you can discard it off of Mr. 3, and then draw 2 cards off of your Ivankov, which is very, very good. The other thing with Inazuma is that he's such a good blocker because you can, because his effect is static and not like a triggered effect or anything, you can block with him and then this discard down to 1 hand through countering. And if you're able to do that, then he will get the buff for his own self. And so you could get him to be a 7K power blocker naturally. And then obviously you counter on top of him, so he can survive some pretty big attacks, which is very, very nice. And then the final card in the deck, obviously, that we need to talk about is Overheat. This is not something that I see people playing very often, but I think it's very good in this deck in specific because it gets 1 active character. So it can be used on defense to bounce one of your opponent's more offensive threats. So if you're playing against red and they have like a Rush Zoro or whatever, and they attack with their leader first or attack with another one of their cards first, like if they attack with a Robin and then you bounce the Zoro or like whatever. But it can also be used for one of your characters. So you can use it to bounce a Perona, you can use it to bounce a Buggy, which is very, very strong so that you can get that effect to search or to rearrange the top of your deck all over again. So that is the deck list. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. This is what I'm going to be playing probably along with Smoker. Obviously, I'm going to be like a I'm going to be a black and blue player, you know. I'm going to be all bruised up all over the place, you know. So I'm going to be playing black and blue. Those are probably the colors I'm going to be sticking to for the foreseeable future through the next couple of sets of One Piece. They're the colors that I enjoy the most, and these are the decks that I'm going to be playing. So I gave you guys the first 2 decks for this week are the decks that I'm looking forward to absolutely the most. We are going to have at least a Dofi deck as well coming up. I might also do Whitebeard and some other decks. Let me know what you guys want to see, and I'll look to do it. Maybe Kinemon will be in there, something like that. I'm open to whatever you guys want to do. But for now, I wanted to show you guys what I'm going to be playing in the first week of OP-02, and that's going to be Smoker and Ivankov, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. There's a lot of hype and excitement about this game and about this set. It's just really exciting and refreshing to be involved with a brand new card game where the community is as excited about it as I am, and it's awesome. So let me know what you guys think about this deck and what your Ivankov deck looks like in the comments below, and I'll talk to you in the next one.